talked about this the last time Sports Illustrated senior writer Chris Herring joined Brother from Another. He was working on it. Now it's here. Matter of fact, it came out 2 days ago. And that is Blood in the Garden, the flagrant history of the 1990s New York Knicks. And I mean, nothing.
Great title.
As we all know, as writers, you guys, much better than me. Nothing makes stories like characters. Stories are based on characters, and there's no shortage of characters within this 1990s New York Knicks era. Chris, thanks for joining us. If you had to pick one, who was your favorite character at the end of researching and reporting and writing this book? Who would you find yourself more in love with than you were going into it?
Oh, I don't know if it equates to being more in love with them, but favorite just as far. I mean, as a reporter, as a reporter, your favorite is always the person that gives you the most stories, just like anything else. Your favorite relative is the one that gives you the most candy, the most money. Pat Riley, the Easy, gave me the most stories here. Him or Anthony Mason. I feel like if Anthony Mason had an attachment to the organization the whole time, it might have been him. But Pat Riley, man, somebody, I'll put it this way, somebody from the Heat kind of orbit, the organization, said, I'm reading this and it is brilliant. I'm going to send you a copy. I need you to send it back to me inscribed to Pat. I said, are you sure Pat wants a copy of this book? It makes him out to look crazy. Not that I was intentionally doing that, but that man, the stories just about him, the organization, the paranoia, just the messaging, that none of it is. This team was a prehistoric dinosaur that now is in a museum, because you will never see this stuff again or hear of this sort of stuff ever again in the NBA. You just won't.
Chris, you mentioned a favorite of ours on this show. You remember Kings of Comedy. And Michael and I drop this line all the time from Seb the Entertainer. Rest in peace. Anthony Mason, you can't take him nowhere. He always fighting. Like, I don't want to give too much away because I want people to buy the book. I want them to read it for themselves. But I got to know more about Anthony Mason. With all due respect to Pat Riley being crazy, I saw one. Again, I hope you don't mind me divulging one little anecdote. Huh?
Please, go ahead.
Oh, okay. So Anthony Mason bought 24 SkyTel pages, throwback, for him and his friends so they could arrange plans as a group. But because Mason had PIN numbers and back-end access to the devices, he'd sometimes pilfer the phone numbers of the women his friends would date. He'd also change his friends' voicemail greetings to make them sound effeminate. I mean, I need more about it. I didn't know about Anthony Mason. That's the character I might be most fascinated with. You mentioned him earlier.
Like I said, as far as the players are concerned, I don't think anybody was touching Mace. I mean, the one that gets
literally
me, all
and
these teams have.
Yes,
the way that these teams have their summer camps, their annual summer camps, where they get people to pay good money to send their 12-year-old out there for a week, and they dangle one player in front of the kids just to kind of get them excited and amped up and get an autograph. And it's never the Patrick Ewing, it's never the John Starks, it's more the Anthony Mason, especially the rookie Anthony Mason. So 1991, the Knicks have their first annual camp for kids, youth camp, and they get Mason to come out for one day, scrimmage with the kids, show up and play with the kids. He agrees to do it for $1,500, which is a lot for him given that he's on a rookie contract. He comes out, and they provide a limo for him. He rolls up. The kids see him. They're all excited because they're in the presence of a pro basketball player. But then Mace gets there. He doesn't get out of the limo. And after 15, 20 minutes, the kids have to go inside. The administrative director, who would later be the GM, Ed Tapscott, comes out. He said, Mace, what's the holdup? Like, you should have been in here already. The limo got you here plenty of time ago. And Mace said, I'm not getting out of the car. And we said, what do you mean you're not getting out of the car? He said, well, two things. I need you to make it $2,000 and not $1,500, and I need it in cash today. So he's holding the Knicks hostage, essentially. Like, he's got these kids in here. He's got all the leverage. He knows he's got all the cards. So he said, you got to be kidding me. He said, do I look like I'm playing with you? So, I don't know how y'all got it with y'all's credit cards and your ATMs or whatever, but like, I couldn't take $2,000 out of an ATM today with my cards. Like, I'd have to probably take multiple cards to do it. So Ed Tapscott had to send different staffers out to go get the money for him. Mason says, okay, well, if you're going to do it, I'll go ahead. and I'll come in for the kids. He comes in there. He plays one scrimmage with the kids, but Mace was ultra competitive all the time. Could not turn it on and off. It was always on. He ended up elbowing a kid inadvertently during the camp and breaking his nose. The kid's nose is gushing blood. The kid is knocked out cold. The Knicks are petrified that a lawsuit is going to be coming. The kid wakes up. He comes to, and he's got Mace hovering over him to make sure he's okay. And he just starts smiling and asks Mace to sign his bloody T-shirt. And then after the camp ends for the day, Mace is leaving. He absolutely collects that $2,000 that he's kind of, swindled out of Ed Tapscott. Then he says, well, thanks for the extra $500. The reason I asked for it is because I want my mom to be able to go shopping today. And, oh, by the way, the limo, I'm going to have him drive her around and kind of joyride her around so that she can get to her shopping. Thank you. And walks out. So, I mean, Mace, there's so many stories. And it's like, that was the second longest chapter in my book because there's so many stories, good, bad, ugly, and everybody that's read it has been like, I don't know if I love the guy or I hate him, but he's certainly compelling. He's certainly layered.
Yeah.
Well, tell me this, Chris. What coach in the NBA right now is likely to put his head in a bucket of ice for 3 minutes to prove to his players that, somebody will come rescue you. Somebody, you got to be desperate enough for wins as I was desperate for air with my head in a bucket of ice for 3 minutes. That's what Pat Riley did. What coach in today's game would do something as crazy as that?
Again, I was about to just try to come up with an answer to be cute. I can't think of anybody. I just can't, You have some of that DNA from Riley and Van Gundy and those Knicks teams. I mean, Tom Thibodeau was part of one of those staffs with Jeff. I don't see Thibodeau putting his head in a bucket of ice water for 3.5 minutes, having one of his assistants drag him out of there to make a point for a pregame speech. Doc can be intense. Doc was part of those teams under Riley in the midst of that era, but I don't think he's doing that. I don't think there is anybody that's doing that. And that's my point is like the way this man was wired, the fact that he, would come into pregame talks with them and have he would have them watching videos of Rams headbutting each other and car crashes to make a point about how he wanted them to play defensively. A guy that was having his trainer go to the sporting goods store down underneath Madison Square Garden to go get spikes so that he could come in for a pregame talk and slide into the room in front of that Knicks logo in the middle of the locker room to be able to say, now that's how I want you guys to do it. I want you to go in with your spikes high. And if you take somebody out while you're being aggressive, so be it. Like that's the messaging he was giving these guys. It's crazy. He was telling them to knock Michael Jordan to the floor before a playoff game. Like that does not happen. He would show them stuff on a 5-minute loop. Michael Jordan dunking on them from the year before on a 5-minute loop. The same play on a 5-minute loop to get under their skin and make them angry. The stuff does not exist anymore, and there's just not a way to get that across. That's why the book, I think, is informative because the 90s, I keep saying it, it's a museum. Like the Last Dance was a museum for a lot of people, and the Knicks museum, I think, might actually be longer, just fewer trophies in it than the Bulls museum, but it's full of some artifacts. I'll tell you that.
Did you happen to interview Chris Rock? Because there's a reason why Chris Rock said Pat Riley was the new black leader, Coach Pat Riley, no master motivator like none other. But listen, once upon a time, and you obviously, did a lot of reporting and writing about Jeff Van Gundy. Once upon a time, Pat Riley replaced Stan Van Gundy and took the Miami Heat to a title. Doesn't feel like anybody on the level of a Pat Riley is walking through the Lakers' proverbial door to replace Frank Vogel. Michael and I discussed this earlier. In a cutthroat, bottom line, scapegoat profession, it still feels truly unfair. I know life ain't fair, but it feels truly unfair and a disservice to Frank Vogel for him to be reportedly, or at minimum, answering these reports about him coaching day to day, given the circumstances surrounding this Laker team this year. What's your read on the state of the Los Angeles Lakers and Frank Vogel's very tenuous state as head coach?
No, you're spot on. I mean, I did a preseason story on the 7 X factors this year in the NBA, and most of them were players. Granted, Frank Vogel was the one coach I put on the X factor list because it was so clear going into this season that this roster didn't work. I think most people knew that. Most people could see that. It's the sort of thing that it was such a bad move, in my opinion, to go out and get Russ and to relinquish your depth to do it, that it was one of those things where, like, am I missing something? Or am I just that kind of far off on an island here with what I think? But obviously it's a populated island. A lot of people don't think that the Russ thing is going to work. But it just seemed you're going to have to take the ball out of Bron's hands to put it in Russ's hands. You don't really want the ball out of Bron's hands. You're going to have Russ as a third star. Wonderful. But you think about the third stars that are effective: Chris Bosh, Klay Thompson, Ray Allen. Those are guys that kill you when you leave them open to go double one of the other 2 stars. Russ isn't killing you when you leave him open. You're leaving him open on purpose. So it doesn't make sense to have him on the roster. And quite frankly, Vogel was always going to be the most likely scapegoat, because you have to imagine that they didn't make this move without LeBron saying he wanted it. We don't know that definitively, but if I had to guess, that's why they went out and got him. I don't think that the Lakers are making this decision unilaterally to just give up on the depth and the guys that helped them get a title, help them be within striking distance of a title. It sucks that it'll probably be Vogel. I'm not a huge Vogel stan, but I think he's a good coach. But the writing was on the wall with this when they gave him the really short. We kind of like the extension, but not really. It was always going to be Vogel, and we'll see what happens with him.
All right, Chris, and that's what I need you to help me with, not the Vogel part, the LeBron part, because Michael and I both agree that LeBron is the greatest player of all time.
No.
I was about to say, I've heard Michael talk enough. I don't think that.
I was just waiting.
I know better than that.
I was just waiting.
You know me better than that, Chris.
In all seriousness, LeBron James is, we know, a great player, but really a smart guy. And when he has built teams, officially and unofficially, he's built teams, it's made sense. He understands that defenses will flock to him. He likes shooters. He likes spot-up shooters, always has. So I agree with you. The Lakers aren't going to do anything without the blessing of LeBron. But why would LeBron, great player, great executive, why would he want Russell Westbrook at the cost that you just pointed out that the Lakers pay? It doesn't add up to me. Why would he do that knowing that their shooting is going to go way down and his job theoretically is going to become tougher?
I don't know if I'd call him a great executive, man. I don't know that.
Yeah.
I'm going to disagree with you there, Michael, just a little bit, because sometimes people have stopped him from making the moves that would have been destructive. It's pretty on record at this point that LeBron was not completely enamored with Eric Spoelstra when he started in Miami. And I think it was one of those things where Pat Riley that basically said, I'm not firing him. So he had to live with it. And then once you got to live with it, you were like, oh, this isn't so bad. Actually, Spoelstra, now I think is consensus top 3 coach in the league and has been for years with the way we view him. Miami, by the way, is tied for first place with a team that has been hobbled all year, similar to the Lakers. So, there was that. I think about the Cleveland years and the fact that, I get that he's getting guys that have had good track records, Isaiah Thomas, in a situation where they had to probably move Kyrie Irving, Derrick Rose, but guys that have been good before and have been dominant before. But by the time they get to Cleveland, these are guys that LeBron really wants. And if LeBron was behind this one, I don't know if he was behind it. I don't know if he gave his blessing. There is a big difference between those two things. But if that's what he wanted over the depth that he had won a championship with, okay, I guess. I just don't see it. And I imagine that there are other people on the roster, not just Russ, Carmelo, who has been fine for them this year. But there's something to be said here for the fact that LeBron is like anybody else. He would like to play with his friends, and he would like to play with his high-profile friends that have been all-stars before. It's not the craziest thing in the world, but I don't expect LeBron to want depth over stars. I think a lot of people feel that way. It's almost like the way we talk about the barbershop conversations of like understanding roster construction. It makes sense that you would want Russ in a nutshell, but I thought Alex Caruso was really, really good with the Lakers, and I'm watching the way he's impacted the Bulls when he can play versus when he can't. KCP was huge for the Lakers during that playoff run where they won the finals.
Yeah.
Harrell was not good for the Lakers last year, but he immediately was helpful for the Wizards this year. The Wizards got out to a great start this season while the Lakers were kind of floundering. So I hope LeBron wasn't behind it, but at the same time, it wouldn't shock me if he had been. And if he gave his blessing for it on some level, that's just as bad. Maybe not just as bad, but it's bad too.
Two years in a row, they went away from what won them a championship under the guise of getting better offensively, and they've gotten worse defensively. You know, last year it was like, oh, let's get Harrell, let's get Schroeder. This year, same thing. Poor management. Frank Vogel had to be the fall guy, though. Hey, last thing before we let you go, man. Speaking of management, a lot of people are going to be, you know, obviously looking to see what the Wizards are going to do, given that there's a report that Bradley Beal isn't going to sign his extension and could enter this offseason as an unrestricted free agent. So again, let's try to get you out of here with a two-part question if I could sneak it in. How do the Wizards play this with the trade deadline approaching? And two, who do you see being the most aggressive? Is this, for example, what Daryl Morey has been holding out for as an opportunity to pounce on a star like this in Bradley Beal if he doesn't re-up with Washington?
It could be. I don't know where he goes, but I mean, that's certainly an interesting landing spot for him potentially. You know, I think about this. I don't think it would happen, but man, I look at a situation like the Kyrie thing where it's like, well, no, I guess you can't even trade for Kyrie because Bradley Beal's not vaccinated either. So I guess that's not working either. I just thought about that, man.
Wait, he's not?
I'm sitting here trying to play GM.
I thought he got it.
No,
he didn't get it.
I'm
No,
nearly certain he
did he
didn't.
wind up getting it?
I don't.
Oh, wow.
I don't think
Okay.
he did, and I think he was kind of vocal about not wanting to. And he did get the virus, but I don't think he got the vaccination. But I don't know. It's a fascinating question. That, you know, if you're going to lose him and not get anything, then certainly you would consider Ben Simmons. But man, that doesn't move the needle for me much. Like if you're just looking at it one for one, do you think you could build your organization better around Ben Simmons than you could around Bradley Beal? Because I don't, you know. But at the same time, you know, it would be a shame if that's the case because they got out to a really, really nice start this year. Bradley Beal was kind of showing a little bit more to his game, just in terms of distributing the ball. He's averaging more assists per game than he ever has. He hasn't shot it quite as well as he normally does, but he's being asked to do a lot. He's really the only guy that can just go out and get his own basket. I guess Kuzma has picked it up a little bit. But, that's a tough spot if you're Washington. But they've had a lot of time to figure it out at this point around Beal. It's been a while since John Wall was there with them. So, it kind of makes sense if this is the end.
Yeah, he may have gotten vaxxed right before the new year. We'll fact check that later, but nonetheless.
Okay, sorry about that if I got that wrong.
No, that's okay. But I'm sure you'll have your ear to the street on this story, and the rest of the league will be watching to see what happens. And they were a good story at the beginning of the season. Chris Herring, we appreciate the stories on the 90s New York Knicks. Congrats on the book, brother. And keep crushing it.
Thank you so much.
Illustrated. Thanks for spending some time with us. Appreciate you.
Really appreciate y'all. You take care.
Hey, thanks for watching Brother from Another on YouTube. Make sure you hit subscribe before you leave, and be sure to watch us 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Peacock. Appreciate you.